Yeah, thank you, Sherry and Jack. We're certainly blessed to still have you here with us after going through such a nightmare. I remember when I was 10 years old, I woke up to my father who had flatlined, and all the paramedics were jump starting his chest. And that was what I woke up to. Like, come on back, Ray, come back, Ray. And I remember, oh my goodness, he was only like 40 years old. And that's far too young to be dying of a heart attack. And fortunately, he made it. But it put me on a course of paying attention to heart health pretty much my entire life. I did not want to be the person to have a heart attack. His dad died of a heart attack at a young age, and he had his first heart attack at a young age. And so I was determined to check my diet to make sure I took tons of supplements, omegas, ever since I was 10 years old, um, to make sure that my heart always remains healthy. And then unfortunately, I was 48 years old 6 years ago and had a heart attack myself, playing pickleball and suffered a major heart attack. And I made it 8 years further than my dad did for his first one. So genetics was playing a big role in that. But I was able to survive, and then I was able to continuously check and monitor a few things that were off. And I was on ASEA through this whole recovery as well during this time. So I know that signaling is everything. And being a chiropractor, we're always talking about, your brain signaling through your spine and out to the tissues wherever it's going. And if anything's compromised with that signal, it's going to interfere with the job of that organ. Unfortunately, the heart never gets to take a break. It has to heal on the fly all the time, but it's 100% dependent on signaling to and from the heart at all times. And so today, I hope that I can bring a little bit of insight on how wonderfully and fearfully our bodies are made, and maybe a little different viewpoint of how to take care of your heart in a way that you may not have thought. We know that diet and exercise and all of that's important, but there's still other things that if you're missing, these signals will get denatured and distorted and then not signal properly. And that is everything in life. So let me go ahead and share my screen. As we mentioned, heart health and signaling is what it's all about. So when we think of heart signaling in simple terms, it's an incredible organ that not only pumps blood through our body, but it also generates and transmits electromagnetic signals. Okay. So these signals are like a language that the heart uses to communicate with literally every cell in your body. Now, I'm talking about your heart, not your brain. Okay. We talk about our brain communicates through our nervous system to every cell in our body, too. Well, we kind of have three brains. You got your brain up here in your noggin, but you got a heart brain, which is really how your body feels. And then you got a gut brain. And so today we're going to be talking about the heart and the heart brain and where these signals originate from and how it uses it to communicate through the rest of your body. So they're like a language, these signals that the heart uses to communicate literally to every single cell in the body. So we talk about the heart brain. There's a serious connection between your heart and your brain. Your brain is telling you what you're thinking, your heart is telling you what you're feeling. Okay. And so there's a strong signaling that happens between the two. So imagine that your heart is in control of your body and it's sending a constant message out to all the other cells, telling them how they're supposed to be functioning and what they're supposed to be doing. These signals are incredibly important because they're going to help regulate and coordinate all the processes that are happening inside of you, the things that you don't have to think about. This isn't coming from your conscious brain. This is coming from your heart brain. Okay. And so when we talk about heart brain, we talk about the ability as an example, like when you experience stress or intense emotions. our heart starts to signal, and the changes in the heart start to signal, or the heart starts to change the signals. A little tongue tied there. So this change in signaling can affect things like your immune system, your hormone levels, even your gene expression themselves. Now, we've talked about how redox plays an important role inside every cell in your body for those exact things. It's transcribing genes to make the next version of them better. It's turning on and off the immune system and all of its responses. And it's all the hormone levels. So remember, your organ or your brain is sending a signal and it uses redox to deliver it. Okay, so that's where redox comes into play here. So it's like your heart is sending out a different set of instructions based on what you're feeling and experiencing. And so there might be a need to increase my heart rate. There might be because I'm scared or I'm frightened. So we have this intense connection between our heart and our brain. And the really fascinating part is that our heart not only receives these signals, but also it can send signals back. So our cells that are receiving signals from the heart actually send communication back to the heart. So it is a two-way street there. And that two-way communication helps us really be able to relate when we're experiencing something out of the ordinary. And so our cells are going to tell the heart, no, we got this going on. And then the heart sends a new set of signals to adjust things accordingly. So every aspect of that heart is all about signaling. And in fact, if you don't have the ability to signal parts of the tissue anymore, they'll put a pacemaker, a device in you that does it for you because it's so important that it gets the signal in order to pump and in order to actually function. So the other thing I want to say is that our heart cell communication is incredibly important to maintain balance and harmony within your body. It's regulating not just stuff of where the blood's going and how fast and how much, but it's also regulating everything that's going into the blood. All of your neurotransmitters, your hormones, your enzymes, all of these things are going to be regulated and bring balance back from heart signaling itself. So when this communication is disrupted or distorted, it leads to all sorts of different health issues. Okay, so it goes back to understanding and supporting heart signaling process is truly crucial for our well-being in general. So we've talked a lot about messages, signals that our heart is trying to tell the body and that it's receiving back from the body, but how do they actually get there? You know, that's a question. That's a valid question. It's like my heart's talking. How does it get there? How do these messages get to where they're going? Well, we've talked over the beginning part of this year about all the different systems in the body. And we've mentioned how the nervous system is always the number one system. It's the most important because it's literally guiding and directing all the function of every cell in your body. And then the number two most important system in the body is your blood. The blood is what's carrying these signals all through your body and delivering them into the right places. Now, when we think of our vascular system, most people think arteries, veins, heart. Okay, that's a 5-year-old can tell me that, and most adults tell me that's what it is. They forget about the capillaries. These are the really tiny vessels that are so tiny that you can't even see them. They're 200 times smaller than a piece of hair. Now, 99% of your vascular system is made up of those tiny ones that you can't see. So nobody really talks about them, okay? But that's where the cell signaling is embedded into the walls of these vessels, and so they can communicate both ways. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. We use red blood cells to carry oxygen, for example, to bring oxygen to any cell in your body so it can make energy. Now, that red blood cell has a lifespan of about 120 days. And during that time, it's going to take 75,000 trips to your heart and back. Truly amazing. So We have three different size vessels within inside our vascular system in general: arteries and veins, those are the big ones. We have arteries have muscles in them. So we're literally flexing the muscles to move the blood. Then it gets down a little bit smaller into arterioles, no muscles anymore, but it has a mechanism of releasing nitric oxide, which opens the vessel and then closes it. So your heart is sending signaling to each part of that vascular system. So it creates a rhythm of flexing a muscle, opening up the smaller vessel, pushing that through. And so all of those signals need to be in sync in order to have proper blood flow. And so then we get down to life is actually in the blood. So we have to be able to bring that life to every part of your body. So this is what your capillaries look like under a camera that's just placed into your mouth. And every one of these vessels you're seeing here are over 200 times smaller than a piece of hair. So again, they don't look invisible because we're seeing it at such great magnification, but these are super tiny vessels. And so you may not be aware that um, how this whole mechanism works, how you get stuff in your blood actually delivered, and how the signals are carried. So in here, we can see that this is one small microvessel. Okay. These are single red blood cells that are going through this vessel that we see. And then also we see the wall of the vessel is just a super thin line. Well, it's just a thin line because that's only one cell layer thick. And I remember being in school, in med school, I would ask the teachers, like, how can one layer of cells hold it all together? That doesn't make any sense. I would just move fast and I'd break like a water balloon. And they told me that at the time, we didn't really know what it was. We thought it was this invisible boundary that was keeping things away. So you got the one cell layer thick, and then you got that invisible space between where the blood was and the wall. And so that's called the glycocalyx. And so with the cameras now, we can see on the left, it's healthy and normal. On the right, something in the blood scratched and broke the wall open. Stuff from the blood leaked outside, it'll harden and calcify. That's the beginning of heart disease. And then that scab trying to heal the wound that just opened is where all the plaque and stuff is going to stick to. Okay. And so what's important to know is that it's not invisible, an invisible layer. It's actually hair, like a shag carpet that you see here on the left. So as the blood's coming down the vessel, that hair right there is designed to, it's called your glycocalyx, to protect the wall, to let nutrients in and release nitric oxide. Now, why is that important? Well, hair itself doesn't really protect your head too much, but if you put some real hair gel in there, you would create a layer of toughness, right? Well, these hairs throughout all 65,000 miles of blood vessels you have wrapped up inside of you have redox signaling molecules embedded in them that become the intelligence of the vascular system. So your heart is communicating to the lining of every one of those miles of vessels, and it allows those nutrients to come in. It's intelligent. It pushes off anything trying to stick to the wall. It's just not going to let it happen. It knows to let oxygen in and to let other bad things out, like toxins. It also has the ability to tag things that are going by and let the white blood cells go find them downstream somewhere and gobble them up. And so it's redox molecules that make our vascular system work. And if we don't have enough, we don't have the ability to protect the hair, and hair gets damaged, and then all sorts of things start to happen that are not positive in that vascular system. So we have these vessels that start real big with muscles, and then they get a little bit smaller. But as they're going through the entire vascular system, wherever these red blood cells touch the wall, redox molecules are going to grab a little bit of oxygen and pull it out of it. Okay, and so that's how we're actually absorbing things. Big vessels are moving with muscles. Intermediate vessels, when the hair gets wiggled and the glycocalyx, it'll open up nitric oxide. So you see this vessel get bigger and then it wears off. And that's the rhythm of your cell signaling coming from your heart to know the timing of when to open and when to close. And then we get into the tiniest of tiny vessels. There's no vessels expanding anymore. They're going to stay the same size where that invisible gel was. But get this, the signaling also tells that to make it thicker or thinner to speed up or slow down the blood when the one before it is dilating and coming back. So there's three different types of vessels that all get signaling to know the rhythm of where the rest of them are at and how to have everything move properly. But at the end of the day, it's this foundation of your health. It's the glycocalyx that you're actually absorbing your nutrients in. So it's not what you eat, it's what you can break down and assimilate that actually matters. Hence, why I look at my handful of whole food supplements and vitamins and minerals as my life insurance. It's the best of science. It's easily broken down and absorbed into these layers. Versus trying to eat a diet that's very poor in nutrition and you're having to exhaust all this energy to break it down just to try to get a morsel of something good. And so, if you can imagine your entire vascular system filleted and laid open, it would cover the size of a soccer field, the entire soccer field. And so, you have to ask yourself that question. What am I doing to help my cell signaling create health in my body? Do I have the soccer field that looks a little beat up and old and dilapidated? Or is my diet and my lifestyle and my supplement choices that in which gives me a beautiful, healthy soccer field that is designed to help me live a nice, long, healthy life? Okay, that is the key to having good cell signaling within your own vascular system. So, how do we make it? Well, we need fuel to make it. And so, we're going to talk about diet because if you're not eating things that actually grew from the ground, you're not producing enough antioxidants. And antioxidants our cells are making is superoxide dismutase and glutathione. These are the two most abundant antioxidants that we have in our body. Think of the antioxidant like the sheriff. He comes in the room, I see a free radical and a toxin. Both of you lost your partner, and so you're running around without your other bond. And so I'm like, oh, you're a negative one. Here's a positive electron. You're neutralized. Oh, here's a positive one. Here's a negative electron. Antioxidants have the ability to give or take positive or negative electrons to neutralize the threat. If we are not eating good food, we are just not building enough of the molecules and the nutrients we need to be able to make these for ourselves. So if you have increased blood pressure, it's going to decrease your glutathione levels. So isn't that weird that the thing that you need to help with stress is not being made as much when there's more stress in you? And so again, that's that delicate balance of signaling. All of these are produced inside every cell, okay, inside your cells in your body. And it only happens when we're eating things that actually grew from the earth or ran across the earth. I guess animals grew as well too. And so the other part that most everybody is missing is the omega fatty acids, omega 3 and um, and 9 is the ones that we really need. We actually have ASEA has one that's omega 357 as well, and so it's EPA and DHA. EPA and DHA are the two essential fatty acids that your body needs. Now, we're getting number 6 in pretty much all the foods we have that have oils and fats in them. So that's abundant, but we can't survive on just omega 6. We have to have omega 3, which comes in salmon and other cold water fish that actually have a lot of healthy fats. Avocados, things like that as well is great for the healthy fats. So supplementing with redox signaling molecules, one dose will actually increase glutathione levels in your body by 800%. Remember, these are the building blocks that you're building all of your antioxidants with. So think of the language of your nervous system is has its own language. Redox molecules make up the letters. Antioxidants are words. and they're all working together to actually communicate and tell that story. So hydration is also equally important. Everything requires water to move in your body, and it's the number one nutrition deficiency worldwide, hands down. It's just as important as any other factor that you're looking at. We need water to move these signals, to move our blood, to move our lymphatic, okay? And of course, to hydrate every one of our actual cells. The mitochondria will not work right if you don't have a balance of water and saline in the cells. Now, you're producing that through the mitochondria within inside your cell, but it needs water to do so. And so, preferably filtered water. Otherwise, you got to become the filter for it as well, which is still better than not drinking water. But there's enough technology out there that we can actually get good, clean drinking water. If you don't have the right balance, you're not going to make energy and you're not going to produce your own redox molecules that you have to make to charge your cells to make them active and then for them to communicate. I mean, that's what it all boils down to. So, as I mentioned, the Osea Omega is amazing because it has this heart brain complex in there. We mentioned the omega 3, the omega 5, and omega 7 fatty acids. These are very more rare, hard to get through your diet, but make it a more complete system for your heart health and for your brain health. Both of those are super important. EPA and DHA ratio for the best absorption, you want about 750 milligrams a day is what the average is for an adult. If you have any health issues of any heart issues or brain issues, you probably need 2,000 milligrams a day minimum just to keep your body on the healing process, just to be able to try to get up and over that. If you're trying to prevent different diseases from happening related to heart, then 2,000 milligrams a day is your dose. If you're generally healthy, then 750 is your dose. Now, the beautiful thing I love about ASEA is, first of all, 800 milligrams in two tiny soft gels. Most products on the market have big soft gels, and it's like 200 milligrams of both of those in two of them. And so you have to take like 10, a day to be able to get what you need. To have this concentrated and this much good essential fatty acids and have it be so small is really awesome. And it comes from, I believe, Iceland. And so they have a very sustainable source that they will not run out of. And so again, number one product for heart health and brain health is your essential fatty acids outside of your cell signaling, which trumps everything. Um, so this provides a nutrient building blocks to complement our redox molecules. Remember, we need nutrients to become part of the brick and mortar of our home, but it's the redox that are the construction workers that build the house. Okay, they're not part of the house. And so optimal redox potential is the number one thing to step up your cell signaling, okay? Because it's all native to the body, it's what they use, and ASEA is the only company in the world that could ever stabilize these outside the body and put them in this jar or in this bottle for up to 2 years still stable. You realize that's like positive and negative electrons that aren't neutralizing each other in the bottle. They always said it's physiologically impossible to do that, but they figured it out. That's like saying, hey, I can pour hot water and cold water into this glass and they're going to stay separate. It just doesn't work that way. But if it did, it would be pretty amazing. Well, this is exactly similar to that, that we have high-powered, tiny molecules that our body's making in every cell anyway. So we don't have to digest it and absorb it. It's just going right through any cell it wants to go through. They're so tiny and they're so powerful that they get into the cells and they activate things. They turn things on and off, make things happen. These are the molecules that get it done. So it's they drive every function of every cell in your body. It's how we communicate. It's the letters that make up the language of that nervous system. And we're losing 1% every year in our ability to make it. So figure out how old you are, and that's how much you don't have anymore, percentage wise, of what your body used to make when you were a teenager, when you were resilient and had all sorts of energy and healed so quickly when things were injured and problems arose. Okay. So it all goes back to what's your signaling potential? High potential, your body is resilient and responds so quickly to everything. It's like bringing extra workers on board. You're going to get the job done so much faster and so much more uh, easier. Okay. With more workers in there. So it's all about signals. Okay. You're going to hear that through almost every topic we talk about in the body, but that's how our body works. It's signaling. I mean, think of what life would be like without traffic signals, without stoplights, without, headlights. These are all signals that somebody's coming, and it keeps us from harm. Okay. And it keeps things flowing nicely. Well, the signaling part of your cells and your body is the most important thing you could ever address. And by addressing that, we're not treating any other conditions. ASEA is not diagnosing, treating, or curing anything in your body. The only thing that can do that is your body. We're giving it energy to be able to do that. Okay. And so it knows how to heal you to the tune of 65,000 quadrillion chemical reactions take place every second in the fluids of your body. In the dark even. Okay, I have more faith and trust in my body's own healing powers if I can enhance that and give it what it needs to actually function. This is the secret to health, and this is the fountain of youth. We have spent a couple years now every week, and I bring a different topic each week to understand how our body works using signaling molecules. And so um, if you are fascinated by this whole concept, I urge you to get back to the person that shared this with you and get on our showcase. We have a showcase that has all those episodes, and go back and find things relating to your health, people that you care about, and help guide them into understanding an amazing way to help us get above and over our conditions that some of us think we're going to have for the rest of our lives. All right. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.